Good afternoon, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good day, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, the following is a collection of news from Patriots. Let's get into the news this Thursday. And it looks like Hollywood has declared civil war on Americans to refuse to vote for Democrats. That's right, isn't it the first time that the Democrat Party has, invoked civil war in this nation? They did. So back in the 1800s, where they fought a war, civil war back then as well. So only fitting that it comes back to the same party who is calling for civil war, which is the Democrat Party, who says if you don't vote Democrat, you are in for a civil war. That's right. They're threatening the side that sits there and takes kids and grooms them, and does everything else with these kids, and they tried to destroy families. And the side that wants to take your guns away is now threatening civil war. If there's any indication of how this is going to play out for them, this is not going to end very well if they want to continue down this path, because they think their dark brain did mean is somehow changing the hearts of voters across the country, which clearly it's not. So let's kind of take a look what we have here. Coming to us via Twitter, and Kathy Griffin. Remember Kathy Griffin? She's the one that held the severed H of President Trump back in 2017. And we had a rash of Hollywood actors out there who were portraying, and in the assassination of Trump in plays and everything they could, music videos, whatever, they could try to push the point that they needed to eliminate Trump. And somehow this is the party of non-violence, yet they still continue to push violent rhetoric like this. And of course, it's echoed by the mainstream media, echoed by the Democrat Party. And I'm sure I wouldn't even say some within the Republican Party. So let's go and look at this tweet here by Kathy Griffin. She says this: if you don't want a civil war, vote for Democrats in November. If you do want a civil war, vote for Republicans. So what she's saying is, if Republicans are sweeping the office, knocking the Democrats out of power, then their only recourse is civil war. They're going to take up arms against Republicans. Is that what she is and sitting waiting to hear? The same people would flee anyway. People like Kathy Griffin, and the rest of the Hollywood pedo cabal out there would flee the nation. They wouldn't stick around for their hoping their security forces would stop a huge mob coming to their houses to go ahead. Exact same civil war on them, right? They wouldn't be around. They would try to flee as fast as they could. These are the same people who said they would leave the country President Trump won back in 2016. Yet they stayed because they're a bunch of hypocrites. They're just trying to gin up their base. They're trying to gin up the low-information voters out there who continue to eat up whatever these idiots say in the mainstream media or in Hollywood. This would be was seedless celebrity actress at this point. Wants to sit there and ignite the flames of course award, but it goes right in with the rhetoric that from Mr. Dark Brandon himself when he sat there and had the most peaceful speech ever by a sitting president, right? As he called his political opponents a danger to democracy who needs to be exterminated. Yeah. That is what you have now, that they are in we are heading out of this cold civil war that we're currently in. And hopefully we never have to head into a hot civil war, because that's something that I don't think the nation really wants or needs, even though the rhetoric is there. And then they'll say, when somebody acts out on their side, oh, no. Well, it was just hyperbole. That hyperbole that we were just talking. We weren't really meaning civil war, but if it happens on the other side, yeah. Insurrection is right. It's always different when they do it. And so the same party, Kathy Griffin and the Democrat Party, who sit there and they deny the election results of any election they ever lose, is now openly calling for war. And then, outside of Joe Biden's Dark Brandon speech, other than Joe Biden's Hitler speech, it's been a really rough week for liberals. There's been maybe 4 or 5 liberal outrage moments just in the last week or so. And it's largely because they just keep taking big fat L after big fat L. Probably the biggest L the Democrats are taking recently is the loss of CNN. I mean, who would have thought at the far left would lose their favorite news channel? Who would have thought that moving forward CNN would become less of a laughingstock and more of a legitimate source? Still a little bit too early to tell. But of course, while most people are cheering on the reforms going on at CNN as all the woke anti-Trump left-wing hacks are getting fired one after another, as most people are happy that the network is moving towards the direction of real news. Left droids certainly aren't happy at all. In fact, quite the opposite. They're kind of going nuts. CNN has decided to go more politically neutral, and you know what politically neutral means, these lefties? I mean, CNN is now an alt-right extremist right-wing hub. CNN has now gone full fascist according to them. In other words, they've completely lost their mind. It's not exactly surprising. And we got to do what we always do, delve into the very interesting phenomenon known as the liberal hive mind. We've got some stuff to get into, friends, so of course let's roll the tape, aren't folks? Take a look at this network-wide purge. CNN staffers panic as quote employees' heads roll under new company chief. Employees at CNN are reportedly panicking as Chris Ledge, the company's new chairman and CEO, is continuing to cut some of the network's most hyper-partisan leftist talent. Of course, they put the word talent in quotation marks. The Daily Mail reported that staffers of the far-left network, which is trying to become more nonpartisan, fear a network-wide purge of quote woke talent at the company. People are freaking out when CNN journalist said it almost feels like there's a pattern. Is there a purge going on? Watch what you say, watch what you do. Oh, no, we're supposed to feel bad for these left-wing hacks, who have done nothing but inject venom into the political discussion for however many years. We're supposed to feel bad that they're finally being held accountable, at least to a certain extent, as if that's a bad thing. Watch what you say, watch what you do. I mean, yeah, that's kind of your job to be a real journalist. That should be the baseline standard. What happened with John Harwood, where he said this on air? Everyone listen to this, he said. These are not honest disagreements. The Republican Party right now is led by a dishonest demagogue. Many Republicans are rallying behind his lies. Okay, as a journalist, there's supposed to be consequences for that kind of action. That's called unethical journalism. I mean, you literally went to school to learn all of these supposed rules, not exactly sure what journalism school is teaching these days, then you finally get your first job working at CNN, you work your way up. And you're surprised when you get fired for clear journalistic malpractice and lack of ethics. He's entitled little snowflakes had it coming. I mean, the sheer audacity of these people. It's like I always say, if you want to do opinion, and you want to be a political analyst, covering topics from a particular side, you can open a Substack, work a Twitter account or a YouTube account and say whatever you want. I mean, I do it every single day, I crap all over the left, and I get paid for it. It's an awesome gig. And I could sleep at night like a little baby, knowing very well that I'm not a total hack, a journalist imposter, like all of these folks at CNN. If you went to school for journalism, and then got a job working in the corporate world of journalism, and then you act like a partisan psycho, you shouldn't be surprised when you get fired and when the network starts going under. And things like CNN Plus are the biggest failures in the company's history. And frankly, in news media history, when ratings are in the gutter, you shouldn't be surprised when new ownership takes over and tries to rebuild the basic credibility of your network. But of course, leftists are real surprised. In fact, they're not only surprised, they're absolutely outraged. Let's just say Twitter liberals are kind of losing their minds in response to what's going on at CNN. Dan Rather writes, what is going on at CNN? It's a serious question. There's a lot of speculation on directives and motives. What's really going on, and is it being noticed by the audience? Probably. Trump derangement syndrome isn't being pushed 24/7. The audience is gonna have to tune into MSNBC to get their fix. Malcolm Nance response, I mean, just lovely characters. Malcolm Nance and Dan Rather treat #CNN like #Tesla. Let's hit them right in the MFing wallet, punish their shareholders for choosing a CEO who was brought in to betray America for Trump #boycott. CNN hit them right in their mething wallet. Malcolm that says, yeah, I think that's kind of the point. That's kind of the reason why CNN is making the change in the first place, because what they're doing was no longer profitable, pushing Trump derangement syndrome for 6 years straight. Eventually it gets pretty old, and eventually people can see right through the disingenuous bullcrap that consumed the network for all of these years. That's kind of the point. Duty to warn on Twitter writes, CNN is gaslighting us. There's nothing strange about a president having military guards. It's another attempt to create a Democratic scandal about nothing while the Republican traitors are free to destroy the country. #boycott. CNN, as Chris Cillizza said, he thinks Republicans are favored to win the Senate despite bipartisan polls showing Democrats favorite to win the Senate. This is literally fake news coming from CNN, but worse, because they're actively suppressing the Democrat vote. #boycott CNN. This one right here is probably the funniest one. Jake Tapper, Jim Acosta, Aaron Burnett, Jim Scudo, Don Lemond and Anderson Cooper should all walk off the job today, to which my immediate response is, yeah, I'm not exactly sure that Jake Tapper, Jim Acosta, and the rest of these fools are going to need to walk off anything. I'm pretty sure CNN probably has a game plan moving forward already in the works to get rid of probably 90% of these guys, if not 100. I mean, let's be real here. If CNN is really going the direction of anti-woke and going towards a nonpartisan angle, you think Jake Tapper, Jim Acosta, Anderson, Cooper, and Don Lemon specifically are going to last at the network? I'm pretty sure they're already in negotiations pertaining to the end of their time at CNN. In the end of their contract, left odds are losing their mind. And speaking of losing, this might be one of the greatest signals that we've seen thus far, proving that lefties are losing the culture war. They're losing the culture war in the world of entertainment as woke TV shows and woke movies get cancelled. They continue to bomb in the ratings, and people are realizing that it's no longer profitable to chase the woke crowder to push feminist garbage as legitimate entertainment. They're losing on so many points of discussion and so many policy points. There is clearly a rightward trend, both politically and culturally. And the loss of CNN is possibly even an inflection point. I mean, who would have thought so soon that CNN would ditch the woke left? I mean, who would have thought that in the year 2022? And by the way, this is another thing that has leftists losing their minds. Who would have thought that Donald Trump would release a public statement praising CNN over Fox News? Take a look at this. Fox News is really pushing the Democrats, and the Democrat agenda gets worse every single day. So many Democrats interviewed with only softball questions than Republican counterparts get creamed. Right? Oh, Karl Rove is unwatchable, very negative. And on all of the time is a big record of losing. Not an easy place to be as a Republican, especially with all of the pervert purchased ads. If, quote, low ratings, CNN ever went conservative, they would be an absolute goldmine. And I would help them do so. Could you imagine CNN becoming a Trump network or a Trump ally? I certainly can't imagine it. But hey, it's 2022 and crazier things have happened. Imagine Elon Musk buys Twitter and Donald Trump becomes the top guest on CNN. That would certainly be one for the history books. But of course, it's all in jest. It's probably not going to happen. The point is, left voids are losing. And it's in their outrage. There's two specific things that make it very obvious that they're losing. One is outrage. One is desperation. And this is probably a mix of both. I mean, what is the left going to do to stop Donald Trump without fake news? CNN, just think about it. Could you imagine going back and redoing the 2020 election, except CNN is covering the news accurately and covering all the Joe Biden scandals, covering the Hunter Biden laptop, all the goofs and gaffes in the guy's melting brain? It would be a completely different timeline. And that timeline is exactly what Democrats are extremely fearful of. In a fair level the playing field, they don't win, and it seems as though they are on a losing path. Thanks for being here, folks. Big hug. Ciao. Goodbye. God bless.